Welcome to Module 3, Soil Science and Soil Health. Take a moment to imagine soil not as boring dirt, but as nature's hidden factory that feeds us, filters our water, and even influences the air we breathe. Soil is alive. It's teeming with life and working hard under our feet. In this module, we'll uncover how soil is built, how it cycles nutrients and water, and why its health matters for our food and planet. Think about this. When soil is healthy, people and ecosystems thrive. When it's not, we face problems from dusty fields to depleted harvests. Here's the plan. You'll get the what and the why, plus the how we measure it and what we can do about it right here on campus. We'll do quick mini activities to keep you thinking and moving, and we'll preview the hands-on activities you'll run this week. By the end, we want you to look at the ground beneath your feet and think, wow, that's a living ecosystem, and I know how to help it thrive. And every step we take is also SDG action, especially zero hunger. SDG 2, clean water, SDG 6, responsible consumption and production, SDG 12, climate action, SDG 13, and life on land, SDG 15. Let's roll. Here's how Module 3 will unfold. First, in Lesson A, Soil Basics and Functions, we'll start with the fundamentals. What soil really is, the 5 main functions it provides, and how we measure soil health using texture, pH, organic matter tests, and others. Lesson B, Soil Carbon and Management. We'll zoom in on carbon, the heart of soil health and climate action. You'll learn the soil carbon cycle and use a simple build, maintain, consume tool to classify practices. Which ones build soil carbon, which protect it, and which tend to use it up. Finally, Lesson C, Living Soils and Ecosystem Services, explores the tiny creatures in soil, microbes, fungi, and worms, and how they build soil structure, cycle nutrients, and even protect plants from diseases. Together, these lessons connect soil science to things you care about, like clean water, healthy crops, and sustainable farms. Now that you know the roadmap, let's dive into Lesson A and ask a simple question. What is soil, really, and why is it so important for life on Earth? When you hear the word soil, what comes to mind? Many people think of it as just dirt, something under our feet or stuck on a shoe. But actually, soil is alive. It's a living ecosystem full of roots, bugs, microbes, and organic matter. Soil is the foundation for our food, our clean water, and even our climate. It holds nutrients for plants, so crops and forests can grow. It filters rainwater so it's clean when it reaches streams. And it stores carbon, which helps regulate the climate. By the end of Lesson A, you'll be able to use the standard definition of soil health, the continued capacity of soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. That definition, used by the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, is powerful because it moves us past soil as a bag of chemicals and towards soil as a living system with physical, chemical, and biological parts that interact. Let's talk about soil health. Officially, soil health means the soil's capacity to function as a living ecosystem that supports plants, animals, and people. In simpler words, it's how well the soil does its job. We will use the USDA's Natural Resource Conservation Service methods to connect the 5 main soil functions. Regulating water, so rain soaks in instead of running off. Cycling nutrients. Making food for plants, filtering pollutants, like a water cleaning sponge, providing stability, so fields don't wash away, and sustaining life. Supporting microbes, worms, roots, everything living underground. You'll also connect each function to an SDG target. For example, water regulation to SDG 6, nutrient cycling to SDGs 2 and 12. Imagine soil as a multi-tool or Swiss Army knife for nature. It holds water like a sponge, feeds plants like fertilizer, and stores carbon like a battery. Each of those functions connects to real-world goals: clean water, good food, a stable climate. So soil isn't just about farming. It impacts water we drink, the air we breathe, and ecosystems worldwide. Notice an important difference. Soil is not the same as dirt. Soil is a living system full of structure, pores, air, water, and life. Dirt is just soil that's out of place, like what ends up on your shoes or on the floor. Healthy soil has a crumbly, sponge-like texture. Think of chocolate cake crumbs, held together by fungal threads and microbial glues. That crumbly structure means water soaks in well, roots can grow strong, and lots of air is available underground. Unhealthy soil, in contrast, is compacted or clumpy. Water runs off, roots stay shallow, and plants struggle to grow. So when we look at soil, remember, If it's healthy, it's a living ecosystem. If it's just dust or mud, we call that dirt because it can't do its functions. Everything we test in this lesson is about seeing whether we have living soil or just dirt. Under the surface of healthy soil are aggregates, clumps of soil particles stuck together, and the little air and water spaces between them. Think of soil structure like a 3D maze of pores. Aggregates are the walls, and the pores let air and water move around. Good structure means big pores and small pores, just right for roots and microbes. When water falls, it infiltrates through these pores instead of running off. Roots send down branches through the cracks. Microbes hang out where there's both moisture and oxygen. But when soil is degraded, crusty, hard-packed, or just plain dusty, those pores disappear. Water can't soak in, causing erosion. Roots can't reach down, and beneficial microbes are squeezed out. You can feel this difference by squeezing a handful of soil. If it crumbles easily, structure is good. If it just forms a hard ball or smeary blob, it's compacted. Good structure is linked to clean water. That's a big part of SDG 6 and healthy land, which is part of SDG 15. Remember, soil is a living system, and structure is how it breathes and drinks. Let's do a quick warm-up. Take a moment to jot down 3 words that come to mind when you hear soil. We'll pause here for a moment. Ready? Share your words with a neighbor. You might have said dirty, brown, worms, or food. All these words are clues about soil's roles. Even though organic matter, or OM, is only about 5% of soil by volume, it's the energy and glue that keeps soil alive. OM comes from decaying plants and microbes. It fuels the soil food web, from microbes and earthworms up to plants, and it holds water like a sponge, keeping soil moist through dry spells. It also acts like glue. It helps particles form stable aggregates, and it stores nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and others that plants need later. As we continue, think about how those words you jotted down connect to organic matter and soil health. For example, if you said worms, that ties back to organic matter as worm food and soil structure builders. Now let's think about texture, a soil's personality trait. Soil is made of sand, silt, and clay. Sand grains are large, gritty like sugar. Silt grains are intermediate, feel soft like flour. Clay particles are tiny, smooth, and sticky when wet. The mix of those 3, that is the texture, gives soil a fixed character. Sandy soils drain quickly but don't hold water well. Clay soils hold lots of water and nutrients but can become waterlogged and hard to work with. Loam, a balanced mix, does a bit of both. Texture doesn't change easily. It's set by mineral content, but it sets the stage for everything. It determines how much water the soil can hold and how fast it drains, how easy it is for roots to push through, and how nutrients move around. Even with the same texture, 2 soils can behave differently if the structure differs. As we study soil texture in class, remember, you're uncovering each soil's personality. Earlier we saw how texture is fixed, but structure we can improve. Structure is about aggregates and pores. It's changeable with management. Picture soil aggregates like little natural bricks. They hold together dirt particles, leaving gaps for air and water. When structure is good, rainwater infiltrates slowly and evenly, giving plants more moisture. Roots can spread through the crumbly soil, and microbes have space to live. If structure is poor, say compacted, water slumps off the surface and pools. Roots fight through the hard pan, and microbes suffer. The good news is, unlike texture, we can improve structure. Add compost, reduce tillage, grow cover crops. All these actions help form and protect aggregates. So remember, texture plus structure together decide how a soil behaves. A clay soil can become friendlier if it's well aggregated, and sand can retain more water if structure holds organic matter. Our tests and activities will show how management makes that difference. Let's apply what we know. Both sand and clay soils have their strengths and challenges. Sand has big gaps. It drains fast and warms up quickly in spring. Clay holds water and nutrients but can get sticky and slow to warm. Think about real places. A sandy beach versus a sticky clay corner of a puddle. Each is useful in the right way. But here's the big point. We can't change texture, but we can improve structure. For example, to help sandy soil hold more water, we could add compost, building structure, and adding organic matter. To help clay soil drain better, we could reduce tillage or add cover crops, preventing compaction and promoting crumbly structure. Take a minute to talk with a partner. Where might sand be an advantage? And where might clay be useful? Let's pause here for a moment to reflect and discuss. Now share. Those ideas show that by understanding texture, we make smarter soil management decisions. Remember, improving structure through practices like reducing disturbance or adding cover crops helps any soil perform better, regardless of texture. Here's a key definition from the NRCS. Soil health is the continued capacity of soil to function as a living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. In practice, that means healthy soil performs many tasks. It cycles nutrients so plants can grow. It regulates water so crops get moisture and fields don't flood. It filters pollutants, keeping our streams clean. It provides stability, preventing erosion, and it sustains life from microbes to earthworms. Soil health is not just a science term. It's also what farmers and gardeners aim for every day. We'll see a diagram from the Massachusetts Healthy Soils Plan on the slide. Notice how it shows these functions. As we go through the lesson, you should think, what does each soil test tell us about these functions? Every measurement links back to how well the soil is supporting life and ecosystems. Healthy soil provides real benefits. It stores and filters water like a reservoir, so water is available to plants and clean water reaches rivers. It builds organic matter over time, so the soil keeps getting richer. It supports biodiversity. Countless microbes and insects live there, keeping the system robust. And it remains productive, yielding strong plants season after season. These functions come from the combination of soil's physical traits, like texture and structure, its chemistry, like pH and nutrients, and its biology, that includes microbes, fungi, and worms. Land cover and how we manage the land, cover crops, compost, tillage, also influence how well soil does its job. For example, adding compost boosts organic matter, improving several functions at once. Everything in soil interacts. So remember, soil health isn't one thing. It's how the whole system works together to support life. The USDA describes 5 soil health principles. Think of them as a checklist for good soil management. They tell us what to do and what to avoid. First, keep soil covered with plants or mulch to protect it from rain and sun. Second, minimize disturbance, so no-till or low-till, to keep the soil structure and microbial networks intact. Third, maximize organic matter. Feed the soil with compost, residues, or cover crops so microbes and fungi stay well fed. Fourth, maximize biodiversity. Grow many types of plants via crop rotations, cover crop mixes, or flowering strips to support diverse soil life. And fifth, integrate livestock via rotational grazing, so animals can contribute nutrients through manure and hoof action in a controlled way. When these principles are all applied together, soil functions better. It holds more water, cycles nutrients faster, stores more carbon, and resists erosion. You can think of them as a toolkit. When each tool or practice is used smartly, we end up with much healthier soil and stronger farms. That's the system's view. It's not just add fertilizer. Chemistry matters, but so do biology and physics, the living community and the physical structure that make chemistry work in real fields. Now let's shift to plants' needs under the soil. Plants require a variety of nutrients to grow, just like we do. Some nutrients are macronutrients, like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Plants need a lot of these. Others are micronutrients, like iron, zinc, and manganese. Plants need them in small amounts, but they're still essential. A healthy soil provides both. There's another factor: pH, which is how acidic or alkaline the soil is. pH affects which nutrients are available. In very acidic soil, some nutrients get locked up and become unavailable, and metals can even become toxic. In very alkaline soil, other nutrients lock up. So keeping soil pH in a good range is critical. Think of pH like a key that unlocks nutrients for plants. In our activities, we'll measure pH and see how it would influence plants' ability to take up N, P, K, and others. We might discuss everyday examples, like how blueberries prefer acidic soil, while asparagus likes it more alkaline. The key is balance. Most plants are happiest when soil pH is around neutral, that is roughly between 6 and 7. In this sweet spot, almost all essential nutrients are available. If pH drops much below 6, that is, becomes too acidic, phosphorus can tie up and get locked away, and elements like aluminum or manganese can reach toxic levels. If pH goes above 7.5, that is, too alkaline, plants might struggle to get iron or zinc, and calcium can lock up phosphorus. For example, in very alkaline soils you sometimes see yellowing leaves, a sign of iron deficiency. Farmers manage pH by adding lime to raise pH in acidic soils, or sulfur to lower pH in alkaline soils. In class, we'll use a pH chart to see these effects visually. Remember, pH is called the gatekeeper of nutrients. If it's not in the right range, the other properties of the soil can't do their job. Keeping pH in balance maximizes nutrient uptake and overall soil health. Organic matter, or OM, and microbes are key players when it comes to nutrients and pH. OM buffers pH, meaning it helps prevent sudden swings that can lock up nutrients. It does this by slowly releasing nutrients as it decomposes and by binding or chelating metals in ways that plants can handle. Microbes are like nature's workforce. They break down nutrients into OM or residues into forms that plant roots can absorb, especially in P and K. For example, microbes convert organic nitrogen and manure into nitrate, which plants love. We'll see these processes in action when we measure soil pH in class. We'll predict nutrient availability before and after our test. The hands-on pH test will show how chemistry and biology come together. So keep in mind, adding compost or having more organic matter isn't just feeding plants directly. It also feeds microbes, which in turn manage nutrients and stabilize pH over time. Imagine a real scenario. A field's soil pH is 5.2, that is, pretty acidic. What problems might plants face? Let's pause here so you can reflect and discuss. Yes, at pH 5.2, phosphorus may be hard to get, and elements like aluminum or manganese might harm plants. Now, what can we do? Think of sustainable ways to bump that pH up. Maybe adding a little lime. That's a quick fix farmers use, or using wood ash in small amounts. We could also grow legumes or add diverse plant residues, which over time can raise soil pH, or improve drainage so it dries faster, since wet soils tend to stay acidic. Turn to a partner. Share one idea you have to gradually move the pH toward neutral without just dumping chemicals. Let's pause again to reflect and discuss. Great ideas. Remember, even small changes in how we manage the soil can slowly nudge pH toward a healthier range. Understanding pH helps us make smart choices that support soil health and plant growth in a sustainable way. Now let's talk about tillage and disturbance. Every time we plow or till, we break up the soil, in a way that's sometimes necessary since planting does need some disturbance. But too much disturbance is harmful. Why? Because it destroys the delicate scaffolding of soil, the aggregates, pores, and microbial networks built over time. Think of it like stirring up a clear aquarium. The water clouds and the fish stress out. Similarly, frequent tillage leads to more erosion, that is, soil being washed away, poorer infiltration, that is, less water soaks in, and stressed roots. It also means microbes get disrupted, so nutrient cycling becomes erratic. Reduced tillage, or no-till, protects that soil scaffolding. It saves labor and fuel and keeps soil moisture steady. In pastures, rotational grazing, that is, moving through sets of grazing animals or livestock with different crop cycles, prevents overgrazing and protects soil structure. So, by minimizing disturbance, we save soil biology and structures. That gives healthier soil, smarter use of inputs, and more resilient ecosystems. Think about the soil in your garden or sports field. What might you stop doing, like tilling wet soil, for example, to keep it healthier? Diversity is powerful. This is true in nature and in soils. Above ground, when farms or gardens grow many types of plants via crop rotations or multi-species cover crops, they create a more varied environment. Adding flowering habitat strips for bees or insectaries can make even more diversity. Below ground, this variety above means more kinds of roots exuding different foods for soil microbes. In short, above ground diversity brings below ground diversity. Why is that good? Diverse plant cover means a wider range of nutrients cycling and natural balances. For example, legumes add nitrogen, while grasses build structure. Plus, when many plant and animal species are present, pests and diseases have a harder time finding all the hosts they need. This reduces pest pressure naturally. So farms with rotations and cover crop mixes often see fewer problems from bugs and diseases and steady nutrient cycles. Biodiversity helps stabilize everything. Farms become more resilient to weather swings, too. In the big picture, diversity is at the heart of sustainable soil and farm management. Imagine a monoculture versus a polyculture. Which one do you think makes the soil ecosystem richer? Let's pause for a moment to reflect. Exactly. And that's why nature usually favors variety. Let's widen our perspective. What do healthy soils do beyond making crops grow? They provide ecosystem services, benefits we often take for granted. For example, food. Healthy soils with strong roots make crops that are tolerant to stresses like drought, so we get reliable yields. Water. When soils absorb rain effectively, there's less runoff and erosion, which means cleaner rivers and groundwater, connecting with SDG 6. Human health. Crops grown in nutrient-rich soils tend to be more nutritious, and healthy soils reduce contaminants, supporting better diets. Climate. Most importantly, healthy soils store carbon and organic matter. That means pulling CO2 out of the air into the ground, helping mitigate climate change, relating to SDG 13. All of these are tied together. Improving one function of soil often boosts others. For example, adding compost, resulting in more SOM, not only feeds plants but also helps filter water and capture carbon. So, healthy soils do more than a field's harvest. They support entire communities by providing clean water, nutritious food, and stable climates. Before we move on, let's link back to Modules 1 and 2 and to the Sustainable Development Goals. Remember in Module 1 we talked about water management? Healthy soil ties into that by holding and filtering water. Think SDG 6, clean water. In Module 2, we saw energy and sustainability. Soil health also plays a part there by improving efficiency, that is, less fertilizer runoff and better yields. Soil functions connect directly to big goals. Zero hunger, SDG 2 because soil grows our food. Clean water, SDG 6 because soil filters water. Climate action, SDG 13 because soil stores carbon. Life on land, SDG 15 because healthy soils support biodiversity. Everything we do to manage soil is part of a bigger system. So when a farmer chooses to plant cover crops or a gardener adds compost, they're not just helping local plants, they're contributing to global sustainability. Keep that in mind. Our small practices connect to these major goals. Let's review Lesson A together. Here are 3 questions, which you can think about and discuss. First, what is the NRCS definition of soil health? And why is it important? Next, how do soil texture and structure influence plant growth and microbial activity? Finally, why do we call pH the gatekeeper of nutrients? And what problems happen if soil pH is too high or too low? Now discuss these questions with your partner for a minute, then we'll share out answers. Here are the answers to our review questions. The NRCS defines soil health as soil's capacity to function as a living ecosystem. Soil texture sets the water and nutrient holding character. For example, sand holds little water. Clay holds a lot but may slow drainage. Soil structure, think of the aggregates, creates the pores that let air, water, and roots penetrate. And pH. It's the gatekeeper because if it's too low, that is, acidic, or too high, that is, alkaline, plants can't access nutrients. For example, a very clayey soil holds water and nutrients well but needs good structure so roots can breathe. Can anyone share an example from your own garden or a farm you know, where soil texture or pH made a difference for plants? Let's pause to gather answers. Exactly, those examples show how soil texture, structure, and pH together shape plant growth. Remember, these fundamentals support everything we do next. Lesson A set the foundation. Now let's move into Lesson B on soil carbon, the climate knob. The essential question is, how does carbon enter, stay in, and leave soil, and how can we tip the balance to build more soil organic matter, or SOM, and resilience? In the soil, carbon comes in through things like plant residues, roots, and added compost. There it fuels microbes, improves structure, holds water, and feeds the next generation of plants. Carbon leaves through microbial respiration via CO2 release, erosion via soil being washed away, or harvest via plant material being taken off field. The key is the build, maintain, consume framework. We'll categorize practices such as building carbon, that is, deposits, maintaining carbon, that is, protecting it, or consuming carbon, that is, spending it. Our goal is like managing a bank account. Have enough spending, because microbes need to respire, but ensure more deposits, so the balance grows. This way, soil stores more carbon, stays fertile, and helps mitigate climate change. Think of the soil as a carbon bank. Build is like making a deposit. When roots grow, leaves fall, or we add compost, we deposit carbon into the soil. Maintain is about keeping those deposits safe. Soil aggregates and minerals act like bank vaults, and we protect them by reducing disturbance via less tillage and no erosion. Consume is spending. Microbes break down carbon and release it as CO2, which is natural loss, or erosion and harvest remove it. We need some consumption. It fuels nutrient cycling. But too much spending drains the account. Ideally, we want build, or inputs, to exceed consume or losses over time, so that SOM grows. During our activities, think of examples. Planting a cover crop is a build deposit. No-till is maintain. while intensive grazing or burning straw is consume. Which practices in your garden or backyard would you count as each? And how might adjusting them help the soil store more carbon? Here's the soil carbon cycle. Plants pull CO2 from the air via photosynthesis and make sugars. Some of those sugars go to the roots, some fall as litter. Some exude into the soil, feeding soil microbes. The microbes eat this carbon. They respire a bit back to CO2 and use some to grow. As microbes die, or as plant bits break down, carbon becomes bound in soil organic matter. That stored carbon improves soil structure, helps hold water, and keeps nutrient cycles humming. The challenges? Erosion washes SOM away, too much tillage speeds decomposition, and taking all the plant material off the field, like removing straw, reduces inputs. But with thoughtful practices, like cover crops that release new root exudates, adding compost, or conserving crop residues, we can tip the cycle towards storing more carbon. See the arrows? We'll practice tracing them. Which part can we influence with cover crops? With reduced tillage? Remember, more soil carbon means better soil health and even climate benefits. Let's clarify two terms: carbon storage and sequestration. Storage is like your bank balance, how much carbon is currently in the soil. Sequestration is like the interest rate, how fast that carbon balance is growing each year. Here's something to consider. Adding compost to soil gives it carbon, but it's only really sequestration if the total soil carbon goes up. Sometimes compost from off-site just moves carbon from one place to another. True gains happen when we add plant-based inputs on site and then protect them. For example, planting cover crops not only adds new carbon, but helps build stable aggregates too. The practices that reduce erosion, minimize disturbance, and build aggregation are the ones that really increase long-term carbon stock. Remember, a little extra carbon across millions of fields makes a huge impact on climate. Why should you care about soil carbon? Because soils are a huge carbon reservoir, larger than the atmosphere plus all plants combined. That means they're central to the climate story. Even tiny percentage increases in soil carbon, if applied over vast croplands, can capture gigatons of CO2. Imagine, if every field in this region added just a pinch more organic matter each year, we could make a real dent in climate change. The equation is simple. When build exceeds consume, and we protect what we gain, soil carbon stocks go up. That's good for the climate. Every small practice, planting cover crops, mulching, that tips the balance, adds up. For example, if this school garden stored more carbon in its soil, it would be helping the climate just a bit. And multiply that by every farmer, city park, or lawn, and it's huge. So think, which soil management habit could you adopt at home that might help capture carbon and fight climate change? People often talk about humus like it's one magic thing. But soil carbon is actually a continuum, a range of compounds. Fresh plant residues, like leaves and roots, are high carbon but decompose quickly. Microbes break these down into smaller carbon bits. Some of these break off as CO2, the fast pathway, and some start to form soil organic matter, the slow pathway. Think of it as Lego bricks. Big pieces break into many little ones before fitting into a sturdy structure. Long-term carbon is like the cement that holds the structure. When carbon is locked into aggregates or bound to minerals, not all the carbon we add will become permanent. Some is naturally respired as CO2. That's why management matters. If we just dump a pile of straw and then immediately till it under, a lot might just decompose and release. But if we mix residues, protect the soil, and grow deep roots, more carbon will stabilize. The key is this: what we add to soil isn't enough. We must help protect and store it for the long haul. We've talked a lot about the build, maintain, consume triad. Now let's see how we as managers can steer it. For build, add diverse carbon inputs. Cover crops, crop residues, clean compost or manure, and keep living roots in the ground for more of the year. More photosynthesis is equal to more carbon delivered below ground. For maintain, protect what you've built. Encourage crumbly aggregates, promote mineral associations, reduce disturbance, especially repeated or deep tillage, and keep soil covered to prevent erosion, overheating, and oxidation. For consume, that's the losses through microbial respiration or harvest. Our job is to avoid burn-off conditions, chronic overtillage, long bare periods, or water extremes that spike decomposition or nitrous oxide losses. In practice, farmers and gardeners combine these strategies. You might plant cover crops, that is, build, and also reduce tillage, that is, maintain. The result: more carbon stays in the soil, making it healthier, better at holding water, and more climate friendly. Think of it as steering a ship. Using these three controls helps keep the ship on course toward a carbon rich soil. Time for some data detective work. Look at this mini dataset. pH 5.5, sandy loam texture, fast infiltration, weak slake, low organic matter, and moderate respiration. First, what do you see as the constraints? Let's take a pause. That's right, acidic pH, sandy soil, weak structure, and low organic matter. Now, in pairs, pick a two-practice bundle, one build and one maintain, to improve this soil. Maybe adding legume cover crops that builds nitrogen and reducing tillage that maintains structure. With those changes, try to predict what soil indicators should improve. pH might rise, structure gets better, SOM goes up. Also, think of an SDG. Cover crops contribute to zero hunger via better yields and clean water via less erosion, for example. Discuss your ideas, and we'll share after a few minutes. This exercise shows how we use the triad and data to make evidence-based soil decisions. Here's the bottom line for Lesson B. Soil carbon sequestration only happens when build consistently exceeds consume, and we protect what we add. In other words, we must add carbon inputs, like roots, compost, residue, faster than the soil loses it through respiration and erosion. And we must keep that carbon locked in place with good structure and stable aggregates. It takes active soil biology and stable soil architecture to get that upward trend in carbon. Think about it. If a farmer plants a cover crop one year, but then plows intensively the next, those gains can be lost. Consistency and protection matter. So, long-term management is the name of the game. The more we keep up these practices year after year, the more soil carbon we accumulate, which boosts yields, holds more water, and fights climate change. Let's look at some field-proven, school-friendly practices that line up with what we've learned. These are 4 big ideas. Keep living roots in the ground, like with cover crops or perennials. Minimize soil disturbance through reduced tillage or traffic. Maximize biodiversity via diverse plants or crop rotations. And keep the soil covered using mulches or residue. For example, continuous roots feed microbes all year and build organic matter. Minimizing disturbance protects aggregates. Having many plant species above ground supports a varied soil food web below. And covering soil with mulch or plants prevents erosion and conserves moisture. In your school garden or yard, even small steps fit these. A winter cover crop for roots, adding mulched leaves for cover, not tilling too deep to avoid disturbance, and planting diverse flowers for biodiversity. Altogether, these practices align with the NRCS principles we saw earlier. Think of them like the cornerstones of a strong building. Each one helps the soil ecosystem perform better. Beyond individual practices, there are huge co-benefits from building soil organic matter, but also some trade-offs if we're not careful. For instance, more SOM improves water holding and infiltration. So less runoff and erosion, that's good. It also buffers soils against drought and heat, giving more stable yields, like a natural insurance policy for plants. Over time, steady nutrient cycling means farmers might need less fertilizer, saving costs and preventing pollution. A diverse soil life can even suppress diseases, so plants get sick less often. Basically, you stack benefits. More carbon in soil leads to better water, better nutrients, and healthier plants. The trade-offs? Well, if we overwater or mismanage a rich soil, we might get more nitrous oxide or N2O emissions, a potent greenhouse gas, or soil compaction from heavy machinery. Or, say we leave too many crop residues. They could harbor pests if not managed. The key is careful design, getting the benefits while avoiding pitfalls. We'll discuss these stacks and balances next. Speaking of design, it's not one size fits all. Building soil health usually helps, but we have to avoid unintended consequences. For example, overwet soil can produce more nitrous oxide when microbes convert extra nitrogen. N2O is a greenhouse gas. Heavy machinery or even too many feet walking on soil can compact it, making it hard for roots and water to spread or enter. Leaving tons of mulch can attract rodents if it's too thick. The idea is adaptive management. Test, observe, and adjust. For instance, if composting leads to too much wetness and N2O, we might slow things down or aerate more. If compaction is an issue, switch to lighter machinery or no-till. Every farm or garden has different soil and climate, so we monitor and tweak. In practice, this means we keep an eye on soil conditions and are ready to change course, like adjusting a cake recipe if it didn't rise right. Let's review what we've learned in Lesson B about soil carbon and management. First question: What's the difference between soil carbon storage and sequestration? Next, in the Build, Maintain, Consume framework, give one example of each. Finally, name one co-benefit and one trade-off of building soil organic carbon. Let's pause for a moment to discuss, and then briefly share answers with a partner before opening the discussion with the class. Here are the answers to the review questions. Storage versus sequestration. Storage is how much carbon is in soil now. Sequestration is how much we add net each year. With Build More Than Consume, build practices include adding cover crops or compost. Maintain is practices like no-till, which protect aggregates. Consume is normal respiration, managed by keeping soil covered so we don't lose extra carbon. A big co-benefit of building SOM is better water holding and yield stability. A trade-off example: if a system is poorly designed, like too wet soils with lots of organic matter, it might produce more N2O or lead to compaction. Keep these in mind. Maximizing benefits and minimizing trade-offs is what makes our soils productive and resilient. Now we begin Lesson C, Living Soil and Ecosystem Services. Our essential question is, how do living soil organisms build structure, cycle nutrients, and suppress disease? And how can we manage them to deliver clean water, climate resilience, and healthy crops? Put another way, soil is alive. All sorts of creatures, from bacteria to earthworms, play key roles. They are the engineers and recyclers. Their activities determine how water flows, how nutrients become available, and how well plants resist disease. By managing the soil to support these organisms via adding organic matter, reducing tillage, and keeping roots year-round, we tap into their benefits. Cleaner water through better infiltration and less runoff, buffering against drought by storing carbon and holding moisture, and nutritious crops with fewer diseases. Think of soil like a city with many workers. Our job is to keep that city thriving. Let's zoom into the rhizosphere. That's the tiny soil zone around a plant's roots. It's like the plant's personal greenhouse, buzzing with microbial activity. Roots exude sugars and nutrients into the soil, which is like a root latte feeding microbes. Bacteria and fungi love this fuel. Bacteria break down organic bits, fungi do too, and it also acts as little glues. For example, glomalin from fungi binds soil particles. Mycorrhizal fungi extend far from the root, trading water and phosphorus with the plant in exchange for carbon via sugars. They're like trading partners. Earthworms create big pores, called biopores, for air and water to flow, and leave nutrient-rich castings, which are worm poop, behind. Altogether, these interactions in the rhizosphere help build stable aggregates, cycle nutrients right where the plants can grab them, and strengthen plant health. So think of the rhizosphere as the action zone where roots and microbes team up. Microbes need both carbon and nitrogen in the right balance. It's like their diet. We call this the C to N ratio. Around 24:1 for carbon to nitrogen, respectively, is the sweet spot for many soil microbes, which is roughly 16 parts carbon for energy and 8 for building cell material. If there's too much nitrogen, like 10:1, microbes go wild and decompose quickly, which actually can lead to loss of carbon from the soil. Too much carbon, like 80:1, meaning lots of straw, little nitrogen, and microbes starve for nitrogen. Decomposition slows way down, holding onto that carbon but also temporarily tying up nitrogen, so plants can't use it immediately. For example, if you leave straw over winter, spring plants might get nitrogen thirsty because microbes consume it. Understanding C to N helps us choose amendments. Legumes with low C to N give a quickened boost. Wood chips with high C to N build structure slowly. Managing residues in the right mix keeps nutrients steady. Not all organic inputs are equal. Some decompose fast and feed plants quickly. Others decompose slow and build soil for the long term. Legumes like clover have low C to N, that is, lots of N, so they break down quickly. A fast snack of nutrients for crops. Grasses like rye or corn stalks have high C to N, so they decompose slowly. Fungi thrive on these, gradually building soil structure. The trick is to mix them. For example, a cover crop mix with clover and rye gives immediate nitrogen from the clover, while the rye leftovers keep the soil alive and improve structure. This balances immediate crop needs with long-term soil health. So a diversified mix means healthy plants now and a stronger soil later, feeding a diverse community of microbes. Let's try a quick think pair share on C to N ratios for cover crops. Which crop leaves behind higher C to N residues when you cut it down? Option A, a grass like oats mixed with a legume like clover? Or option B, a grass like rye alone? Take 30 seconds to choose which one between A or B. clover or rye, has higher C to N, then discuss why. Let's pause here briefly for the students to choose. All right, let's share. Yes, rye is high C to N because it's fibrous and older when killed, whereas clover is leafy and N-rich. This matters because the high C to N rye will support fungi and build carbon over time, while the clover gives quick nitrogen to the next crop. Also, grasses, especially mature rye, having C to N at around 40 to 1 to 80 to 1, decompose slowly. Legumes, like clover with C to N around 10 to 1 to 20 to 1, decompose fast. Now imagine maturity. An older plant's residues have higher C to N than a young plant's. Here's a quick guide to some ballpark C to N numbers at flowering. Clover, a legume, is roughly 10 to 20 to 1. That's low C to N, so it decomposes quickly, giving a fast nitrogen boost. Oats, a grass, are around 25 to 40 to 1, a middle ground, with moderate breakdown, steady and release. Rye, another grass, can be 40 to 80 plus to 1. That's high C to N, breaking down slowly and feeding fungi, great for long-term structure. Remember, as plants age, their C to N goes up since they get more carbon relative to nitrogen. Soil microbes have many jobs all in one place. They're like multitaskers in an ecosystem. They break down organic matter via decomposition, recycle nutrients by making N, P, and other elements available to plants, help form soil structure by producing sticky glues and binding particles, and even suppress diseases in some cases by killing pathogens. They produce plant hormones that influence growth, like auxins that boost roots, and form symbiotic partnerships, like mycorrhizae, trading phosphorus for sugar. They help manage soil salinity too, by influencing ions. All these roles keep soils fertile, water retentive, and plants healthy. In short, microbes are the hidden workforce of the soil. By adding organic matter, cover crops, and not disturbing soil, we support this workforce so they can do all these jobs more effectively. Think of microbes as the soil chefs. They break down leftovers, such as dead plants or manure, into nutrients that plants can eat. Bacteria and fungi are on the decomposition crew. They mineralize nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur, turning bound-up nutrients into forms roots can absorb. For example, they convert ammonium to nitrate in the soil. Because of them, nutrients don't just wash away. The soil keeps recycling them. We'll see the difference. Without microbes, nutrients remain locked in debris, and crops suffer. A helpful image is bacteria chewing and fungi digesting organic matter. The take-home message is this: microbes ensure roots have a steady buffet of nutrients, keeping plants strong and reducing fertilizer losses. Microbes don't just feed plants. They also build the soil's architecture. Some microbes exude sticky substances, like glomalin from fungi, that glue soil particles together into crumbs or aggregates. Imagine microbes as tiny architects, creating building blocks. These aggregates leave pore spaces in the soil, like rooms and hallways. Air moves through these pores to reach roots, and water trickles through to be stored. This aggregate structure is why some soil types hold together in water and others don't. You'll do a slate test soon to see this. Healthy soil will form stable crumbs underwater. Poorly structured soil will fall apart. Good structure from microbial glues means better water retention and root growth. Think of those pores like emergency air tunnels. They help plants survive drought and heavy rain by controlling moisture and oxygen. Here's a neat fact. Some soil microbes are like bodyguards for plants. They protect against diseases. How? Some release antibiotics or antifungal compounds that kill or inhibit pathogens, that is, harmful microbes. Others actually eat the bad guys or outcompete them for food. Over time, soils with many of these helpful microbes become disease suppressive, meaning plant disease just don't take hold. For example, trichoderma is a beneficial fungus that naturally attacks harmful fungi. If a soil is disease suppressive, farmers need fewer chemical pesticides, and that's better for the environment. Think of it this way. In a healthy soil city, the good microbes keep the bad ones in check so plants can thrive. Having disease-suppressive soil means healthier plants, safer food, and ecosystems work, rather than chemical sprays. Some microbes even act like gardeners' allies by producing phytohormones. These are compounds, like auxin or cytokinin, that affect plant growth. For instance, auxin helps roots grow longer and explore soil. Others slow plant aging or boost stress tolerance, like helping plants survive drought. Symbiosis is another team-up. Mycorrhizal fungi extend roots far into the soil and trade water and nutrients, like phosphorus, for the plant's sugars. Endophytes live inside the plant and can even fix nitrogen for it. The result: the plant grows stronger and needs less fertilizer. By practicing things like cover cropping and no-till, we encourage these helpful partnerships. It's like saying thank you to the microbes, and they pay it forward by making plants hardier. Ask yourself, if microbes are giving plants a natural boost, how might that reduce our need for synthetic fertilizers or help plants during a drought? High salt in soil can be a tough problem for plants. Think of it like them drinking salt water. They get salt burn. But some microbes can mitigate that. They act as filters or detoxifiers. Some keep excess sodium away from plant roots, others change harmful salts into less damaging forms. It's like putting a sponge around your plant roots to catch salt. This means crops can survive in salty soils, where normally nothing would grow. Farmers can use these microbes as a natural solution to expand farming in salty or coastal areas without over-irrigating or chemical fixes. Imagine farming where no one thought plants could live. That's the power of salinity managing microbes. Soil health isn't just about plants, it also protects us. Here's how. Soil can harbor human pathogens, that is, germs that make us sick. But it also has beneficial microbes that fight those pathogens. In healthy soil, good microbes crowd out or kill the bad ones, reducing the chance that produce from that soil will be contaminated. If soil is unhealthy, say, low in organic matter or badly managed, pathogens can survive and move up the food chain, from soil to plants or animals, then to people. Sustainable practices like adding compost, rotating crops, encouraging microbial diversity, boost soil's natural protective power. Think of soil as the first line of defense in the One Health chain. Good soil leads to safer crops and food. So by improving soil, we're not just growing more food, we're keeping that food safer for our community and creating climate-resilient plant production systems. Let's talk about One Health. The idea that the health of soil, people, and the planet are linked. Almost all our food, about 95%, comes from soil, so healthy soil is critical for nutrition. It goes beyond food. Soil microbes give us medicines. Antibiotics like streptomycin came from soil bacteria. Soil acts as a filter. It cleans our water, preventing pollution from reaching our taps. It's also the largest land carbon store. More carbon is in soil than in plants and air combined, which makes it a key climate regulator. So when we manage soil sustainably, we are not just helping plants, we are helping ourselves and even wildlife. Improving soil means safer food, cleaner water, and a stable climate. Basically, healthier lives and a healthier planet. The concept here is that by taking care of soil, we are contributing to the health of everything. Not all farming practices are friendly to soil. Some common mistakes can hurt its functions and thus harm that One Health connection. For example, too much tilling disrupts structure and microbes. Erosion from bare fields washes away topsoil. Heavy machines compact soil, preventing water infiltration. Bad irrigation can cause salinization. Imbalanced fertilization can upset nutrient levels. However, we can diagnose these problems by checking soil texture, doing a slake or aggregation test to see if soil crumbs hold together, measuring soil organic carbon or SOC, testing the pH, and even observing if there's much microbial life. Identifying these issues is the first step to fixing them. Remember, what's bad for soil can eventually be bad for people through crop failures or pollution. In the One Health view, fixing soils helps heal people and the environment. So if you spot a soil problem, think, how can we solve it to protect our food and water? Fortunately, we have many tools to heal soils. Just as we take medicine or exercise to stay healthy, soils need care. Core practices are: keep soil covered with plants or mulch, which prevents erosion and saves water. Minimize disturbance by tilling less, so structures and microbes stay intact. Keep living roots year-round via cover crops or perennials that feed microbes continuously. Increase plant diversity via rotations and growing multiple species to boost biology. And return organic matter by adding compost or leaving residues. These work to maintain or restore soil functions. The payoff? Cleaner water, steadier food production, and a resilient environment. It's like a health regimen. By following these habits, soil stays productive. Each practice also directly links to One Health. For instance, keeping soil covered not only holds carbon, thereby fighting climate change, but also keeps dirt from splashing on food or into water. It's time to review Lesson C with some questions. First, what is the rhizosphere and why is it important for soil health? Second, why does the carbon to nitrogen ratio matter for decomposition? Lastly, How do soil microbes contribute beyond crop yields? Discuss with your partner. Then share your answers and relate them to real examples from gardens or farms. Let's pause for a moment now to discuss. Here are the answers. The rhizosphere is the soil zone around roots where plants send out exudates, like sugars and amino acids, which feed microbes. In return, microbes provide nutrients to plants, help form soil aggregates, thereby building structure, and protect plants. It's like a roots and microbes marketplace. The C to N ratio of about 24 to 1 balances microbial energy and growth. Too much carbon, meaning higher C to N, slows decomposition because microbes run out of nitrogen. Too much nitrogen, that is, low C to N, speeds decomposition and can cause carbon loss. Finally, soil microbes provide many ecosystem services. They filter water like a living sieve, store carbon and mitigate climate change, suppress diseases by protecting plants and thus the food supply, detoxify pollutants, and even produce compounds for medicines. Healthy soils literally support the health of plants, people, and the planet. Can someone give an example of one soil service we haven't mentioned yet? Let's pause for a moment to come up with examples. Great! Those examples illustrate how microbes tie soil to one health. The big idea is microbes in soil do way more than help one plant grow. They support entire ecosystems and human well being. Now, let's wrap up the whole module. The key takeaways from Module 3 are: soil is a living system. Its physical, chemical, and biological parts all work together. We learned about the 5 core functions, like nutrient cycling and water filtration. We can measure soil health by testing texture, pH, organic matter, and respiration. Microbes drive carbon storage and nutrient cycling, which supports plant growth. Cultural practices make it happen. Keep roots in the ground via cover crops or no-till, add organic matter via compost or biochar, and reduce disturbance. These practices help soil deliver both food and ecosystem services. And they tie directly into sustainable development goals like zero hunger, clean water, and climate action. Remember, each thing we do, from measuring soil to cover cropping, helps the soil support people and the planet. Look at this mind map on the board. It's a big picture roadmap. We'll use it as a guide. On the left, we have soil basics, that is, what soil is, a living system, texture, and organisms. In the middle, soil carbon, that is, build, maintain, consume, and the bank account analogy. On the right, living soil and ecosystem services, the benefits healthy soil provides, from filtering water to disease suppression. We'll go through it from left to right. Ask yourself, how is soil different from dirt? It has structure and life. When we move to the center, remember our bank account analogy. Adding carbon is a deposit, tillage is spending. Notice how all roads lead to that right section of ecosystem services. For example, that carbon we stored also helps nutrient cycling and protects against diseases. Let's follow the flow. Soil properties goes into carbon cycle, which goes into services. As we talk, watch how each part connects. And a final question for today. When you look at soil health and why soil matters on the map, what's one thing that makes you think differently about soil? Maybe it's, hey, soil gives us medicine, or soil cleans our water. Keep those connections in mind as we move forward. Healthy soils create not just food and ecosystem benefits, but also career opportunities. And maybe one of them could be for you. If you like being outside, you could be a soil scientist or conservationist, doing fieldwork to measure soil or design sustainable farms. If you're a tech-savvy person, maybe you'd enjoy being a precision ag specialist or using remote sensing to monitor soil health from satellites. In labs, soil microbiologists analyze samples. There are roles in managing resources too. Watershed specialists protect water quality, restoration ecologists restore degraded lands, carbon project developers work on climate solutions, and conservation planners design sustainable systems. You could even start a business, like a compost operation or soil health startup, or teach as an extension educator or garden coordinator. Think about your interests. If you love plants and technology, precision agriculture could be your thing. If you like chemistry, being a soil lab tech might fit. There are roles for every passion in soil health, showing how this science is relevant to many career paths. Finally, here's a sneak peek of some hands-on activities coming up. You'll get to test real soils. For pH, using strips to see if soil is acidic or alkaline, and discussing how that affects plants. For organic matter, by comparing soil colors, darker usually meaning more SOM. And for soil glue and respiration, seeing if soil aggregates hold together in water and if soil fizzes with CO2. For example, you'll see which soil clumps hold their shape when wet, that's good structure, and which release bubbles via microbes respiring. Safety first, but be curious. Predict what you think will happen before testing. When you observe results, link them back to what we learned. For example, low pH soil might have certain plants growing in it, or dark soil in the garden probably holds more water. These activities will let you witness soil's hidden properties, how it affects plant growth, filters water, and cycles carbon. Think of this as seeing the science we've discussed in action.